year is 2012. A plane crashes in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, killing everyone on board. A series of bomb explosions are reported in the Republic of Congo, killing at least 300 in the country's capital. Hong Kong-based file-sharing website Mega Upload shuts down on the grounds of copyright infringement. And on the outskirts of a village deep in the mountains of southwest China, a defunct copper mine was found pestered with bat guano. A mine that was going to change the world.
You are watching Artemist Plus.
A group of 6 miners were called in to clear these accumulated excrement remains of the bats and birds. The group enters the mine and clears the guano, but they feel different after coming out of it. After working in the mines for a couple of weeks, all 6 of the miners start feeling sick. As days pass, their conditions worsen. They show symptoms closer to pneumonia, but it keeps on worsening as the days go by. The clock is ticking. They're taken to the hospital. The oldest of the 6 dies on day 12. A month goes by. The youngest miner shows signs of recovery and is discharged from the hospital. Another is discharged after a few days. In a couple of weeks, another miner passes away. Out of the 2 still in the hospital, one is discharged after the 3rd month, and the other? Scientists from the Wuhan Institute of Virology are called in to investigate and, after taking samples from the bats in the mines, they identify several new coronaviruses. 8 years after this incident, the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 would hit the world. Within weeks, millions around the world would be infected with it, and hundreds of thousands will end up losing their lives to this deadly virus. Several theories about the virus's origins emerged. Some claim that it came from Wuhan's wet markets and passed from animals to humans. Another theory, popularly known as the lab theory, hypothesized that the virus may have been leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology laboratories, hinting towards a possibility of bioengineering.
Have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agency for China.
Soon after Trump affirmed his support to the lab leak theory, the World Health Organization published a report after its 28-day mission in Wuhan, claiming that it's extremely unlikely that the virus originated from a laboratory-related incident. It emphasized that the virus most likely spread via multiple intermediary host species. While the report received criticism from about 14 countries, it was widely supported by the mainstream media and so-called experts.
So one thing I can tell you is that this is not a bioweapon. Nobody made this virus in a laboratory. This is a product of nature.
No conclusive evidence proving COVID-19 emerged from a laboratory.
Like this attempt to make Chinese scientists the bad guys in this whole case. Like they developed some crazy virus and they released it into the world. That's not what happened.
Coronavirus wasn't released from a lab in China or anywhere else. Continuing to claim that is just plain wrong. I'm Dwayne Pullman.
But one person was going to change it all. Bhubaneswar, India, where a former science teacher was not convinced with the explanations the media and experts were giving about the origin of the coronavirus. He began looking into publicly available data to find clues about the mysterious virus's origins. The more he looked into it, the less sense everything made. Something did not add up. The SARS-CoV-2 showed unique characteristics like protein spikes, but that's not all. The RBD, or the receptor-binding domain of COVID-19, seemed structurally closer to pangolins than bats, even though it was supposed to have been passed by bats. Next, he spent days looking into anything that can hint to something about the virus's origins. He'd go on to spend days alternating between his computer and his smartphone, running thousands of searches every day trying to locate one clue that can navigate his search. One day, he lands upon CNKI, one of China's foremost databases of scientific papers. He typed the following keywords into the database's search bar: coronavirus, SARS, horseshoe bat, Yunnan. He spent days scanning dozens of articles, theses, publications that were available on the database, and just when he thought he was about to reach the end, he stumbled upon exactly what he was looking for. A master's thesis written by a Chinese doctor. The document contained an account of 6 cases of severe pneumonia caused by unknown viruses in workers who had been cleaning an abandoned copper mine in Yunnan, China. The patient's symptoms seemed eerily similar to those of COVID-19. 3 of the patients, it said, died from the mysterious illness. He knew that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had sampled these mines, and he had just uncovered a missing puzzle piece. A link between the closest known relative of the coronavirus and research conducted at the Institute of Wuhan. He posted his findings to Reddit, and within minutes his post was taken down. The next day, he was banned permanently from Reddit for making that post. He migrated to Twitter and created an account named The Seeker 268. He started posting everything he had discovered on his Twitter account. China changed the way the CNKI search functioned, the database that Seeker had used to mine the evidence from. The Seeker's initial tweets were unnoticed by the majority, but he was able to meet a group called DRASTIC, Decentralized Radical Autonomous Search Team, investigating COVID-19. DRASTIC was a small group that consisted of scientists, virologists, data analysts, and people of many other professions from around the world. Their motive? To look into the virus's origins. Members of DRASTIC chose Twitter as their platform to publicly discuss their investigations. This was done to ensure their discussions were transparent and publicly accessible. As they publicly revealed their findings, DRASTIC members started having discussions and debates with virologists and epidemiologists who refused to engage with the lab leak theory. Missed DRASTIC's findings and investigations out of hand. For Seeker and other members of DRASTIC, it was clear their journey was not going to be an easy one. With multiple members banned from Twitter, the group's findings were being ignored or even suppressed by the mainstream for months. DRASTIC members then started publishing their research and investigating publicly. Some would go on to bring the group's work to the public spotlight, and that's when the pieces started falling, one by one. DRASTIC found that the genetic sequence of RATG13, the virus that killed 3 miners back in 2012, matched perfectly with that of SARS-CoV-2. As weeks passed, they were able to piece together more information confirming their suspicions about the Wuhan Institute of Virology having a direct connection with the coronavirus. In October 2020, 2 researchers from India's renowned research institutions, who were also DRASTIC members, published their findings on Frontiers. And for the first time, the close structural features of SARS-CoV-2 and RATG13, the 2012 virus, came out to the public. DRASTIC continued publicly releasing their findings. A year passed, and by 2021, DRASTIC had produced so much information that no one could keep up, not even its own researchers, so they launched their own website as a repository. DRASTIC's work was now being acknowledged publicly. A well-known virologist from the University of Washington, Jesse Bloom, made a tweet legitimizing some of the group's work. He was then pressured by the scientific community to reconsider his support, but Bloom stood his ground. In 4 months, 17 scientists from Harvard, Yale, MIT, and other leading institutions joined Bloom in a letter calling for a thorough investigation of the Wuhan lab. On the same day, The Seeker released 3 translated theses that further reaffirmed the theory that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had indeed been testing multiple unpublished coronaviruses for years. In days, this call for a thorough investigation started to take place, culminating on May 26 when President Biden ordered U.S. intelligence agencies to look in depth and investigate the origins of the virus. At the G7 summit, leaders of these nations also discussed the possibility of the virus originating from WIV's labs. As this tug-of-war takes place between 2 of the world's biggest powers, it all comes down to one anonymous Twitter account who started it all.